Meadows Community Talk Show. I'm Wendy O'Connell, and my guest today is Ernesto Sanchez. He is here with us, and he's a mental health professional at the retreat. He's also a singer and songwriter, and he's also a bartender at Echo, and most recently, he's the host of a podcast called Green Mountain Sports Roundup. Welcome, Ernesto.
Hi, Wendy. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you on the show.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we got stuff to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
So you actually had a pretty interesting childhood.
Yep. So early childhood, grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Total airline brat. Both my parents worked for the airlines, and then when I was about 7 years old, my dad got a big promotion, and we all moved down to Puerto Rico, and we were there for a little bit. Actually, I spent 3 months in a Marriott hotel, like resort hotel, and it was awesome for a 7-year-old kid. You know, would go to camp all the time, and the ocean was right there, and video games, and room service, and the whole thing. So I had a blast. And then I wound up going back to live with my grandmother in Texas to do some schooling because my parents didn't really find a school there that they thought was going to meet my needs. I was kind of a difficult kid, but
You needed a little supervision.
yeah. Well, I just needed more than they had there. So went to live with my grandma, and over the next about a year and a half, spent a lot of time in San Antonio, Texas, and then wound up coming back to Puerto Rico, and my dad kind of tragically lost his job. They wound up suing the company afterwards. But so he wound up having to sell all of his, retirement fund and everything like that. And, we kind of gave up everything we had to move back to the States. And we wound up back in Pittsburgh. And it was really interesting as a kid going from having everything I could ever imagine, and my dad had this awesome job. We had this big, beautiful house at the base of a rainforest in Puerto Rico, to then being back in Pittsburgh, crappy weather, no money. My dad working 3 jobs to get by. So.
Yeah. You can't get more diverse than that in terms of two ends of the spectrum, right?
But it was a good time, though.
Yeah?
Yeah. As a kid, I think you wind up having fun wherever you are and whatever you're doing.
Right. And this was 90s, right? Is
Yep.
that right?
I believe we moved back in 1997, 1998, something like that.
Yep.
So.
And so you went through schooling basically in Pittsburgh then after that, right?
Yep. I wound up, we came back to the same town. So I kind of picked up where I left off. I just sort of went away for 2.5 years. But I wound up graduating high school from that same town, and I went to college at Point Park University in downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I met a dancer there that I immediately fell in love with, and she was from Brattleboro, Vermont. So we both left school, and I followed her here, and I was here for quite a long time, worked for CNS. I worked at Frankie's Pizzeria, which I'm sure everybody remembers in Harmony Lot.
That's right.
Absolutely loved that place.
Yes. He had quite a following, right? He had a real following of people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was the best pizza in town, bar none. Yeah. And met my best friend there. And Frankie's whole family is like, my family. So I graduated high school in 2006. I was here by the by the spring of 2007. And Frankie's was my first job here. Yeah. And I just remember the town had like such a life about it, such an artistic, variance in people. I loved the scene in Harmony Lot. It was like a bunch of friends that I still have today. We would all go there and kind of congregate, play hacky sack, play music, smoke cigarettes.
Yep.
It was quite the scene. The Tinderbox was right around the corner. Frankie's was there. There was an awesome deli there, the sun-dried tomato.
Oh, right, that's right. And Weather Vane. Was
The weather vane,
up?
yep. I wound up, so my girlfriend at the time worked at the weather vane, so I wound up running the door and doing open mic there.
You did?
Yeah.
And you were hosting?
I wound up hosting for about a year, and that was a lot of fun. Again, just making friendships and relationships
Right.
that last to this day.
Yeah.
So.
And can you name any of the bands that were there that we all remember? Or some of us would remember?
Voodoo 802 is definitely one of the bands. My band at the time was called Sincera. We played quite a bit. Flabbergaster. Oh man, it's tough. We gotta take.
We should have talked about this beforehand.
Yeah, no kidding. Jatoba was kind of going strong then.
That was a great little place. That was a very cool place.
It was a cool place,
Yeah.
and the Moleseye too. I mean, there were a lot of
That's right.
a lot of great bands and a lot of good local music, great local music scene.
Yes.
I mean, Adagio had an open mic too that was well attended.
And you could all live in town pretty easily too. The rents were pretty good back then.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody in the People's Building had pretty good rent. The Sam's Building hadn't been redone yet, so there was pretty affordable housing in there. And
Right.
lots more people lived like in the general downtown area, I felt like.
Than they do now, you
I think so.
Yeah.
There's more professionals downtown now.
So this was all going on, and then at some point you moved to Montreal? Is that
Yeah.
right?
So fell in love again, and wound up. She was going to New England Circus Arts Center, NECA, and yeah. So she just needed more training and graduated from the program and went up there, and I chased her up there, and of course I didn't have a visa, so. I was just there as a visitor.
Yeah.
In order to make money while I was there, I did a lot of busking in the subways. And so I'd spend 8 hours a day or so in various subways. You know, I'd travel around and try and find good spots and where I'd get good traffic. And I would just practice. You know, I'd play covers, I'd play my own stuff.
Right.
I would do this thing where I would play songs for about 40 seconds at a time because that was about the amount of time it took for somebody to like see me. They would hear the music from far away, but then they would see me and then they would walk through.
Right.
And then by the time they like left to go up the escalator, I would switch into another song. But I would try and like first scan the crowd and see somebody who I thought might give me money. And then I would try to play something that they would like and sort of maximize the amount of money they would give me. So I'd see a guy with spiky hair and all in black with chains and stuff, and I'd start playing a Misfits tune, or I'd see like a Latina grandmother, walking, kind of hobbling by, and so I'd play a Spanish ballad for her, or just you try and pick out things people would like.
I think that's really interesting. Just the fact that they're playing your music, so there's a creative piece to it. Plus you get to like really practice a lot all day long. But you're looking at the people and you're trying to figure out, what would work for them and what would attract them. It's a lot of observational stuff going on.
Absolutely.
Very interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, did you like it?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. And I certainly got to the next plateau with my music, just being able to dedicate that much time to it. It was literally my job. But I'm not sure I would enjoy the instability of doing that because, you're really relying on the generosity of other people. And there is an element of skill involved, and there are people who make wonderful livings out of it. But not knowing whether I'm going to make $200 or $20 or $100, it's hard to live your life that way.
It is. And you really need an urban area to do that, don't you?
Yeah, you can't really do it around here.
Yeah, no. So you come back to Brattleboro?
Yep, so things didn't work out. She really had to focus on her career, and it's tough to do that as a couple, especially as a couple where one portion of that couple doesn't know whether they're making $20 or $100 a day. So I wound up moving back, and you said it before. Love brought me back to Brattleboro, but love brought me back again because I really loved this place. So this time I chose to come back here for me, and I've been here ever since. And yeah, I work at what was then Fireworks, what is now Echo, and playing a lot of music in bands. My buddy Scott Griswold, we just make a bunch of music together.
You still do?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I always joke that he's my producer. So, you know, any project that I've had in the 12 years that I've been here, he has been a major part of, and you know, he's a good friend.
And along the way, somewhere in here, you had a little health thing going on too.
Yes, in 2010, I was shortly before my birthday. Diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which turns out is a really good thing to get diagnosed with if you're going to have to be diagnosed with cancer. It's the Cadillac of cancer, I like to say. 90% treatment success rate, and you know, is pretty manageable.
How long a period of time?
From diagnosis to remission was about 13 months, but I had surgery and then 10 months of chemotherapy.
Wow. And did you do that here in Brattleboro?
I did one round here, but then I decided to move back to Pittsburgh temporarily. I lived with my sister, and she, I did treatment.
So you did there, and so you're with family, which was probably...
I was with family, yeah. My sister and my two nieces. It was a great healing environment.
That's wonderful. That's great that you had that opportunity to do that. Yeah, and so you came out of it clear. You're clear, free and clear, right?
Yep. I was in remission by September, did frequent scans over the next 5 years, and then I was declared cured, and then for the last 4 years have been living blissfully cancer-free.
That's so great, Ernesto.
Not even needing to get scanned or anything for it.
That's a great story. We like to hear those success stories.
Me too.
Yeah. You come back to Brattleboro, and you've still got the harmony scene going on, right?
I stopped hosting the open mic nights and that stuff. By that time, Weather Vane had been closed, and the Brooks House fire had happened.
Oh, right, okay.
And Irene had also happened. So the town had undergone a lot of change, and things were very different. I was a little bit older, so started focusing more on, playing places like the Whetstone, and playing the Root Cellar in Greenfield, and I guess it wasn't that then, but just kind of the Metropolis.
Oh, right.
Played the Metropolis a lot.
Yep.
And at that time, I was in a band called Starfruit Salsa. It's like a dual singer-songwriter kind of thing, and that was a lot of fun with a friend of mine, Hannah Hoffman.
And you've seen a lot of changes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the community doesn't seem to get together in the same way as it used to. There's a lot of sort of fragmented parts, and it's tough to be downtown together. I feel people felt comfortable having their children go hang out in Harmony Lot, and I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore.
Right. And how about you? How do you see the scene downtown? How do you move into that?
I think that it's tough because there's a lot of aspects at play. There's mental health issues. There's addiction issues. There's inflation and housing issues. It's really expensive to live in the state of Vermont, and as somebody who relies on tourism downtown, it's difficult for me not to see the people on the street as something really negative. And of course it's negative because we want people to have their needs met, have their basic needs met, housing and whatnot being. But it's tough because I don't blame tourists for not wanting to be downtown when they're getting hit up for money 3 or 4 times between the parking garage and wherever they're going. You know, it's tough and it needs to be addressed, and I'm not sure what the answer is.
Yeah, well, you're not alone in that. And I think that there are a lot of people addressing it from a lot of different angles. But you're also seeing, I would think, some of that with your job at the retreat.
Yeah. So I work at the Meadows Educational Center at the Brattleboro Retreat. It is a K through 12 school. It is accredited, so our kids can earn a diploma from our program. And I work specifically in the elementary, and we see the direct effect of the opioid crisis every single day with these kids. So many of them come from abuse or trauma or addiction, neglect, you know, and a lot of it is fed through that scene.
Yeah.
And, you know, especially our younger guys, they're coming to us at a higher level of acuity than they ever have. And we're getting kids younger than we ever used to get them as well.
Really? Yeah. And are these mainly kids whose parents are in treatment at the retreat?
No. So the Meadows Educational Center is a program that services both the kids that are in residential treatment at the retreat, both the adolescent residential and the Abigail Rockwell Children's Center. And then we also are a day school for kids whose districts don't have the resources to accommodate their very specific and special needs. So we'll bus kids in as far as Claremont, New Hampshire, Cavendish, Vermont.
Wow.
We've even had kids coming from Greenfield area.
Really?
Yeah, so they come from all over, and you know, then we have a school day, and then they bus as far as an hour or 20 minutes back home.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't realize that. And these are kids who have been sort of discovered to have different mental health problems?
A lot of them do have the mental health issues, but I would say a majority of it is behavioral issues. And so, yes, the mental health piece is important there, but it's not like we have several schizophrenic kids or several kids that have, you know, personality disorders or anything like that. It's kids that can't be in class because, you know, they experience, you know, some kind of perceived slight, whether somebody sticks their tongue out at them or they get an answer wrong, and then they start throwing chairs and, you know, trying to fight people.
Wow.
You know, so that's those are really the kids that we get a lot of. Are the public schools just don't have the resources to manage their behaviors.
Yes. But you guys do. And
sometimes. We do our best.
One of the things that you do is the crisis prevention intervention.
Yeah.
Right?
So I'm the lead a lot of the physical interventions, and I'm the CPI instructor for our school.
And meaning you're training other people?
Yep. I train all of the mental health workers and most of the teachers.
Yeah.
To just a lot of it is just disengagement skills and you know, kind of learning how to verbally de-escalate a situation and sort of prevent the issue before it happens. But sometimes it's unavoidable, and you know, we have to maintain safety for ourselves, for the kid, for the rest of the students, for the whole school.
Right.
And so sometimes, unfortunately, hands-on interventions do have to happen, and I'm usually kind of
You're a lead guy for that.
one of them. Yeah. We have a really good team of great people who have a lot of experience and do a nice job.
What's the ratio, kids to teachers?
It depends on the grade level, but it ranges from you know, 4 to 1 in the elementary school, where 2 to 1 are often a full, you know, 1 to 1.
Wow. So how did you get there, Ernesto? I mean, this wasn't necessarily your trajectory.
No.
Right?
Well, I was serving at then Fireworks, and one of the servers there was a therapist at the residential, but he had a lot of contact with the school, and he said, Ernesto, you'd be great at this. And so I went in and gave it a shot. I fell in love with the work, fell in love with the kids, and have been doing it ever since.
Wow. How many years?
It'll be 7 in February.
7 years. Wow. Burnout?
I'm very lucky that I work at the school, and so the breaks are sort of built in. We followed like the traditional school schedule. So February break, April break,
Yeah, right.
the summer, that kind of stuff. It really helps you recharge and stay fresh, because it is very challenging work. And I give a lot of credit to the people who work in the hospital proper that don't get those kind of breaks.
Doing the kind of intervention that you're doing, I would think would take a lot of physical skills.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, yeah. I'm very used to physical conflict. I was a 4-year letterman in high school for wrestling, and then a few years ago, they disassembled the team, but I spent 4 years as the varsity coach for Pioneer Valley's wrestling team. So,
Really?
So I'm kind of used to kind of heading into the fray, and I think that served me well. Obviously, to bring it back to the CPI, you can't do any wrestling moves on the kids, but I think just having a clear understanding of leverage, and also, when somebody attacks you, you get that drop of adrenaline, and that can be really difficult for people to deal with. But having experience, getting that and learning how to harness that power and turn it into, focus it.
Right.
I attribute a lot of that from wrestling.
Oh yeah. I would think that would be a huge piece of your ability to be able to deal with this. Also, you go in with the knowledge that you can withstand this, right?
Yeah.
And you can do this kind of relationship really with kids. How do the kids respond to you?
I mean,
it varies.
Varying degrees. Even the same kid will respond differently at different moments during the day, but I'd like to think that I'm generally well liked by the kids. I'm sure this will come as a huge surprise. I'm pretty goofy, so that helps a lot. I'm often singing or dancing or, doing something else that they find amusing.
That's so great, especially for the little kids too, right?
Yeah.
Do you work as a team?
Everything is a team, a team effort. I have a co-charge that we joke we're kind of like different sides of the brain. She's so organizational, and I'm very physical, and so I give her a lot of credit for often being my active working memory. So shout out to Sally.
That's
obviously she's so much more than that, but yeah.
Anything else that you can tell us about your work there? Because you're seeing an increase over these years, just the years that you've been, increase of kids who need this kind of help.
I think more than specifically my school, I would say for parents to get involved in their kids' education and advocate for them, and not to see teachers saying they may need special services as some sort of reflection on their parenting and like they're doing anything wrong. Many kids have just extra needs. They need to be helped, and it's not any failure on the parents' part. And the best thing that they can do is be in close contact with their children's teacher, their children's counselor, the principal, and make sure that their kids are getting all of the help that they need. Because often we see kids that come to our program that with a little bit of early intervention, the story could have been much different.
Right. And I think this is something, that we hear over and over again with mental health people in the area.
Stand up to stigma.
Yeah, stand up to stigma and get there early. Get there early treatment. In addition to all of that, you also have a podcast going on.
Yes.
Now, podcasts are really popular, as we all know, but yours is focused completely on sports.
Yep. We do dabble in a little bit of pop culture too, and kind of whatever comes up. But my two buddies, John Downing and Marty Griffin, and I do a weekly. Well, we try to make it weekly. You know how it is.
Yes. Snowstorms.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Sports podcast, and we'll talk about anything. I mean, we focus mainly, especially in the fall, on NFL, but we talk about baseball and basketball and hockey and soccer and fighting and international sports as things come up.
Wow.
But yeah, there's a little something for everyone there. My buddy John is like a sports savant, and he remembers every name and every stat, and for 30 years back and more. And he's a big New England sports guy. And my buddy Marty is from Texas, so he's also really into golf and stuff. So he's Dallas and University of Texas. He's a casual, or I guess he is a hardcore Celtics and Red Sox fan too, because he's been in the area for a while.
How about you?
Well, I'm from Pittsburgh, so I bleed black and gold. Yeah.
Steelers?
Absolutely.
Oh, good for me.
Way to go, Wendy.
Yeah, thank you very much. I can use that. Do you cover women's sports?
Yeah, I mean, we
Good.
talked a lot about the women's soccer team and their fight for, economic equality, and so
That's great.
we'll talk about anything that comes up.
Local?
If something notable happens, we don't really focus on local sports too much. My wrestling team has been dissolved for the last 3 years, so I've really lost the pulse of the local sports scene.
Yeah. Ski jump or anything?
Not so much those kinds of sports, but again,
right.
if something comes up, if somebody winds up dying on the thing, we'll talk about it. We're setting a world record.
If it's
Maybe I should say
newsworthy,
that. Yeah,
if
exactly.
it's newsworthy, you'll cover it. Yeah. I'd like to go back for just a sec. Because you've been a bartender at Fireworks and/or Echo for a number of years now, and you've also been in front of a mic a lot, and you're kind of leading the way with a bunch of kids every day when you go to work. I'm just kind of tying this all together, and so you're pretty comfortable in that kind of position. And I'm thinking about your story about busking and really observing people. As a bartender, how do you like that job? What is it about that job that you enjoy?
Well, I think bartending was probably the best training I ever could have gotten to work in mental health, because you learn how to be really nice to irrational people who are being mean to you. So, and then you also learn how to read people. You know, so I love working at Echo. Aaron's a great boss and a great friend, and we've got a great scene there. I also run, it's a music venue, and I book all the bands for that. So we do music twice a month, every second and fourth Wednesday. And I really appreciate that Aaron has given me sort of a platform to have my friends come and play music, and we get to feed them. And
it works for everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's very cool. Do you get to play?
Yeah. Every now and then I'll play. I just played a show about a month ago.
Do you go to the Stone Church for music?
Still waiting to get in there. So Robin, if you're hearing this, please have us there. The Elliott Street Alibi is trying to get in there.
Is that the name?
Yeah, that's the name of my
Good
band.
name,
Yeah.
Elliott
Thank
Street
you.
Alibis.
Yeah, I live on Elliott Street with my girlfriend Lindsay. So
You're back to Brat for love.
absolutely. Well, staying in Brat for love. Yeah.
Staying in Brat for love. Who could ask for more? That's great. Thank you so much, Ernesto.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for having me. I
Great
appreciate
show. It was really fun.
Yeah.
You've been around the block.
A little bit, once or twice.
And we'll see you around the block,
I
too,
hope
in
so.
town. Yeah, thank you. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. Yet another story about Brattleboro and someone who has lived here and loved here and is still here. So next week we will have another Brattleboro area person on. Please join us and tune in. Thank you.